I would say that childhood programs are quite well implemented, up to, depending on the country, up to 5, up to 11 or 13 years of age. And my major question is, should it be the only one to be correctly implemented? Now, who should be more concerned? And we have heard of the so-called at-risk groups, but first, they are scattered in the population. Second, do they individually accept to be treated as at risk? Most of them want to have a normal life. And so it's quite difficult to motivate them to more prevention. And is it a real good way to consider their disease? And then how to motivate the specialists that are focused on their specific pathology, but forgive about vaccines. Second, you have migrants. And my major point is, do we really integrate them in the population? And I'm not so sure of that. Then you have the hard to reach or socially deprived. And there, the only way to go is a door-to-door approach. And last but not the least, the older adults. And I must say that so far in our societies, especially in nursing homes, they are aside of our societies and forgotten. A part, and I want them to be a part, are pregnant women. I have 5 kids. I never considered it was a disease. So I am not alone like that. And why consider us as at risk? So yes, anyway, we had to focus on those most vulnerable population. And we spoke a lot about that. So what have we heard since yesterday? Every speaker has some key common words. Some of them: information, communication. I would remind you that it starts with listening to people. Implementation of vaccine, access to vaccine, sustainability, development of the vaccine. I forget a lot of them. Second, the positive role of artificial intelligence. And I think we have to work with more of this positive benefit of artificial intelligence. Collect, analyze large database called megadata. And there is a need also for real-time information. The more we go, the world is quick. We need to know what happened today, not 8 days later. Surveillance is key. And once again, I consider that artificial intelligence may help us largely. We need data, as it just was said, we need data to convince different stakeholders. We have to keep aware some stakeholders, politicians, health authorities, healthcare professionals on communicable disorders. And we need tools if we want to succeed. So we have to develop point of care rapid tests. We have them, they are available, they are not very expensive, they are not always reimbursed. And we have multiplex PCR in laboratories. I would insist on the fact that I feel a gap between globally public health that is based on a population approach, and at the other scope, you have the face-to-face between the person, and please note, I don't say he is a patient, he is a person, and the vaccinator. And I know this through AlphaVac. All those doctors, pharmacists, nurses, they want to have an individual case in front of them. They want a very specific answer. Politics concern, lack of interest in health, lack of cohesion, consensus interest, change of treaties, legal aspect, lack of spending for prevention. You said that perfectly. The human population, anxiety, fears, vaccine fatigue, obliviousness of severe outbreaks, and even the pandemic. It's behind us. Nobody wants to speak anymore of COVID, but there are COVID cases. Ecological concerns, the climate, one of them. Geopolitics, you spoke of that. Antimicrobial resistance, all this is population concerns. And then you have the animal population, and zoonoses are at our door. There are antibiotic consumption for animal growth, and they are getting closer to humans. So with all these facts, my third point would be how to federate our efforts in order to limit overlap, redundancy. There is a huge work to do, and we have to collaborate. And I do really think that those transversal collaboration, as CLCI is engaged here, is extremely positive. We need to develop those lateral collaborations. How to give more value to the vaccination programs? I insist on equity in our societies, and I insist also to what was said about this intergenerational approach, because I think it's a very strong way to go. If we speak on the whole population, we don't know the rest of the population. If we speak of percentages, it's no mean for the individual. But if you speak of the household and your close friends, that makes sense. And so you certainly can do something. And my credo, and it just was said, is that prevention, I would like to prefer promotion of health, is much less expensive, around 3% of health costs in Europe than cure, and you reminded us of immunization, 0.5% of health budget. So where do we go? I consider it is a titanic task, but also that it's not a Promethean task. So we have to go forward. First, think more of global health in Europe. Utilize more digitalization to collect data, real-time surveillance, economic value. Work on how to communicate simply about good science. Utilize the same media people are going on. Utilize short videos, short podcasts, short cartoons. We need officially EU commitment. We need to anticipate, evaluate also the moods and fears of the population, utilizing mails, social media. If I had more time, I would give you what is doing so far Google to collect their keywords in our mails and in order to understand what is the feeling of our population. It's metadata, it's artificial intelligence. We need also at the level of our European societies, I'm not speaking of medical societies, but the population societies, we need to understand better the wishes, the dreams, and especially for the young generation, the Y and the Z. We need to know what they understand about travels, climate change, how they think about their next life. We think about and anticipate, if possible, next severe outbreaks. And here too, we had a beautiful example this morning. Vaccine innovation, of course, sustainability, John Procurement, or everybody said. But at the end, the world is driven by money, money, and money. And so you reminded us that per capita immunization funding is less than €5. It seems ridiculous. It's not even the place for pictures in the movies. Sustained political leadership, and really you were extensively this morning about this topic. So my final perception, and it will be the closure for me, think of concerts and orchestra. Vaccines are good instruments, and it's due to EMEA industry. Health authorities, probably on behalf of politics, are the composers of strategies. Vaccinators are the players on the field. Vaccination benefit is for the audience, and it means each person, family, intergeneration, responsibility. And I insist on the fact that it is the responsibility of each person to get a good health. And it's also due to all. Thank you.